What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and today I am bringing you a buy or not to buy for the brand new set Dawn of Majesty, which is due for a pre-release this weekend, and following that weekend, next week we will have the official release. So what can you get at a sneak peek event? Well, you can go down to your local stores, you can pick up packs or even boxes of the brand new Dawn of Majesty and enter into tournaments and or raffles where you can win a Field Center, a promo card and or the full-sized mat as well. So what we're going to do on today's video is we are going to go through all 10 of the secrets that have been revealed. We will look at the set from a value point, and we'll also look at the set through a general what is in the set, what would you like to get, what could be of some form of a use for you as well. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe as something falls behind me so you do not miss out on any more upcoming content. With all of that out of the way, let's dive headfirst into the video of to buy or not to buy the brand new core set of Dawn of Majesty. Looking to pick up your very own custom sleeves? Well, look no further. Go to Yourplaymat.com where you can choose to have your very own image on the back of sleeves, or you can choose from their amazing range of pre-designed artwork ready and waiting for you. Get them shipped directly to your door and use the affiliate link and discount code down below to get 10% off. What are you waiting for? Go and grab your custom sleeves from Yourplaymat.com. So, Dawn of Majesty introduces us to brand new support for a load of decks, as well as a brand new ACG exclusive of, I believe they're called Beat Troopers, and they're basically a brand new insect-based deck that revolves around turning different attributes in the graveyard, or turning stuff in the graveyard into insect. A couple of insect flood cards as well. They do have a slight bit of synergy with generic insect kind of support, but all in all, it's probably going to be able to operate as its own deck. And of course, with all TCG exclusives, they do receive at least one secret, or the majority of TCG exclusives, they receive one secret. Now, the secret that you also receive, I will be putting up on the board for you today, and you also get this as one of the promos. So, as you've seen from previous pre-release events, I would say, the promo is also a secret in the main set. Now, that does not mean that the secret in the main set is going to be of high value. Actually, it's quite the opposite. Because the Ultras are harder to get hold of, play sets of the Ultras, or just general single copies of the Ultras, sometimes go from between double, if not 1.5 times more than the secret counterpart, purely because they can only be attained at the pre-release events, whereas you can only obtain the secrets from any of the boxes that are going to be opened, and let's be honest, it's probably going to be the less sought after secret. Now, all of the images we do have are from, of course, the pre-release boxes that have been opened via the influencers online as well. So the Beat Trooper that you're going to be getting is Beat Trooper Scout Buggy, I believe it is, or Buggy. And I'm waiting for everything to load correctly so you can see it. Now, obviously, the card that we actually saw was a Italian card, and it was secret rare. So you cannot special summon monsters except insect monsters. And if this card is normal or special, you can special summon one Beat Trooper Scout Bug from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So basically, it's a level 3 bug that will allow you to normal or special summon another copy of itself from the hand, deck, or graveyard, which is very, very cool. However, because it is the promo and the secret rare, I would not expect these to be of high or huge amounts of value. Then we're going to move on to the other kind of secrets, and we're not going to spend forever on these, but we will kind of breeze over the main ones, and then we'll talk about the core ones that I feel will either maintain value or pretty much present themselves with enough value to make it worth picking up or investing in the set in general. Now, the other one we've got is our first Pendulum Scout, and I apologise if I butcher this name, but it's called like the Anti-Human Intelligence Misaya. So, its Pendulum Scout is any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead, except monster cards. So it's got a Macrocosmo in the, well, a light Macrocosmo in the Pendulum Scout, and it is a Pendulum Scout of 0. Its monster effect is you can reveal this card in your hand, add one other Pendulum monster from your hand, or one card from your Pendulum Zone to its owner's extra deck, face up. And if you do special summon this card, you can only use this effect once per turn. And if another monster or monsters is normal or special summoned while you control this card, send that monster or monsters to the graveyard during the end phase of this turn. So it's kind of a cool little floodgate card that you will put on the board, and it really will cause your opponent issues, but it's also more just so a 2500 beta. Again, I don't think it's going to be the most incredible card from this set. I don't think it's going to be the most amazing card, but because it is a Pendulum, it will have a bit of light following. But again, I reckon this, alongside the secret Beat Trooper as well, is probably going to be sitting around the 10 mark, if not a little bit lower. Now, the other kind of cards that we do have there are ones that we're leading up to that are going to be massively important as well. So we'll go over, let's have a look. So we'll go over the Gizmit field spell. Now, it looks amazing. I'm disappointed it's a secret, but again, Gizmit support as well. They also get 2 new main deck monsters on top of that. So it's called the Sacred Scrolls of the Gizmit Legend. During your main phase, you can excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, add 1 excavated machine monster whose attack equals its own defense to the hand. Also, banish the remaining cards face down. You can only use this effect once per turn. Each time a machine monster or monsters whose attack equals its own defense is normal or special, you get to place a counter on this card. While this card has 10 or more counters, neither player can activate the effects of monsters on the field whose attack and defense do not equal. So, it's a really good card in the sense of being able to search your deck, because it is, again, during the main phase, you can constantly activate it as long as it stays active. It is, of course, a once per turn, because, well, I believe it is. Let me just double check. Yeah, you can only use this effect once per turn. Now, being able to get 10 counters on it may seem like a big jump, which it kind of is, but most of the Gizmits can special summon themselves, so there's a lot of a way to work around it, but 10 counters is always going to be a much, because unless you can get that 10 counters consistently in one turn, your opponent's probably not going to let you keep that on board, because then it becomes a continuous skill drain, and technically, in a pure Gizmit deck, a continual searcher. Again, this is a card that I feel will drop below £10, purely because it is so specific on what it does. But keep in mind that we are going to be getting more Gizmit support as it goes on. And if you're like me and you really enjoy the Gizmit archetype, it's definitely one to be looking out for. Then we'll move on to one that I think is going to be one of the standouts, but again, I don't think its prices are going to rocket through the roof, and that is the Iris Sword Soul. So for those of you who don't know what it is, I will be putting these up on the screen as we go. It is, of course, the effect monster that follows on from the Dogmatica lore, and we believe it is Fleedius in human form. So during the main phase, if a monster whose effects are negated is on the field, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If your opponent special summons a monster or monsters except during a damage step, you can activate one of these effects where it was special summoned from. So if it's special summoned from the hand, you get to special summon 1 monster from your hand. If it's special summoned from the deck, you get to draw 2 cards. If it's special summoned from the extra deck, you get to destroy one of those monsters special summoned from the extra deck. So it's really kind of cool, but what you've got to keep in mind is it's quite specific that a monster has to have its effects negated. Now, during a period where Halifirax was being used and abused in pretty much in every single deck, this card would pretty much be golden, because Halifirax would summon out a monster that would negate its effects. You could then summon down the Iris Sword Soul, and then whatever they made with Halifirax could then be destroyed via the Soul Sword as well. And on top of that, if you get this out before Halifirax, as maybe you've impermed, you're going to be able to draw 2 cards, which is really kind of nice. But keep in mind, because it's reliant on a card to be negated on the field, I feel that this kind of falls within the same brackets as something like Miradora, where it's kind of a nice, cool, niche side deck card, but because its effects is so specific. Now, I know there are going to be a lot of cards out there that negate effects. I know you've got stuff with like imperms. I know you've even got cards that, as you play them, will negate your own effects as you go. But keep in mind, your opponent has to open up this level 8 monster. They have to already have some sort of use to have this in the deck, because I wouldn't just be putting this deck in as a counter side, because you can look at stuff like Phantasme would be a better option. You've also got Nibiru as well. So there's kind of times where this one won't always guarantee to be useful for you. But it's definitely a card that I would say once it drops to about £10, pick up a playset, because it's one of the ones that you'd rather have and never need than need and never have. So as we continue through the secrets, building up to the ones that are pretty much, in my opinion, going to stomp everything, we'll start touching on the Synchros. Now, when I say Synchros, what I mean by that is they actually have 4 cards that revolve around the Synchro archetype that also revolve around, of course, Stardust. So, of course, you're going to get the Stardust Dragon, but before we get onto those, you're going to get 2 spells. You're going to get Arrival in the Light, which is a continuous spell, and you're going to get Synchro Overtake. Both of them are secrets. Now, Overtake, reveal 1 Synchro monster in your extra deck, choose one of the Synchro materials whose name is listed on that card, and add it to your hand, or special summon that monster from your deck or graveyard. You can't special summon monsters from the extra deck. The turn you activate this card accepts Synchro monsters. So again, it's very specific. There is not a very heavy Synchro deck, in my opinion, that is just pure Synchro. Even when you look at Adamanticators, they can go pure Synchro if they wish to, but they will probably be relying more so on, of course, the link plays as well. On top of that, when you do look at stuff like Virtual Worlds, yes, it's kind of a cool little niche card, but again, what card are you actually special summoning that is specifically listed on that card? One that pops to mind is, of course, Plague Spreader Zombie, but again, is it something you're really going to want to max 3 of these out just to get to a Plague Spreader? I don't think it is. It's a very cool card. It does look awesome as a secret, but again, it's very disappointing that it has to be a secret rare for all of those that want to build Stardust as a fun deck as well. Not to mention, like, one secret, okay, sure, but you're going to give them 4 secrets to try and hunt, and at least 3 of them you're going to want to freeze? Come on! Again, this is a card that I feel on initial release, because of Syncro hype, will be about 20 to 25 pound card, but I feel it's one of them cards that has the potential to drop quite significantly, purely because it has that. It's not going to be used in the meta level decks, it's not going to be meta defining, and it's not really going to be able to demand a high value price, especially when we haven't got in-person play. The other secret rare card again is Arrive in Light. So when this card is activated, you get to place 1 level 1 dragon monster from your hand or deck on top of the deck. Neither player can negate Stardust Dragon or Syncro monsters that turn. Apologies, I'm gonna have to find it in a bit. Here we go. So when this card is activated, place 1 level 1 level 1 dragon monster from your hand or deck on top of your deck. Neither player can return Stardust Dragon or Syncro monsters that specifically list that card in its text from the field to the extra deck. If a Syncro monster or monsters is special summoned except during the damage step, you can apply one of the following effects. You cannot apply the same effect of Arrive in Miracle, which is now of course called Arrival in Light, for the rest of this turn. You can draw 1 card, or you get to special summon a tuner from your hand. Now obviously the draw 1 card is very nice, the special summon a tuner is also very nice, and you can get to use both of those effects. But in order to do that, you just need to be able to special summon a monster, a Syncro monster. So that part is generic and very, very nice. Putting the level 1 dragon back and being able to not shuffle back the Stardust Dragon is also a very nice option, but to me, that is not going to be the core appliance of this particular card. In a very Syncro heavy deck, something like TGs for a bit of fun, maybe even looking at Virtual Worlds, and of course looking at stuff like Stardust themselves, drawing an additional card or even add Emancipators is always going to be very, very cool, especially if you have the ability to stack the deck. Keep in mind as well, special summon a tuner from the hand can be very good, again, specifically looking at something like Emancipators, purely because they run so many of them, that this can be a very nice additional extension. So Arriving in Miracle, in my opinion, is probably one of the better of the spell cards, or the better of the Syncro related secret rares, and it's certainly probably going to fetch around the 15 to 20 pound mark and float around that area until it comes down a little bit as well. I would like to ideally pick this up as a playset, just because I do play a couple of Syncro decks, but this is what you've also got to keep in mind as well, is any deck that is Syncro heavy or Syncro reliant would really like to have this card, purely for the fact that you get to draw a card a turn if you are going to be Syncro summoning, and you also get to special summon a tuner monster from your hand. So you're going to be able to use the same both of these effects in the same turn. You just can't use multiples of the same one. Continuing on with the Synchros, of course, or the secrets as well, for the Synchros, you do get shooting Majestic Star Dragon, which is the cover card, but as we can probably assume from the past, this might drop in value. It looks amazing, and again, I'll be putting these up on the screen for you, but again, it also has that ability or that tendency to not be meta defining. It's probably going to have a bit of a fan following, which is probably going to demand around the 15 to 20 pound mark, but again, as you've seen in the past, these cards will drop down to around the 10 pound mark. Because it specifically requires Majestic Dragon plus 1 or more non-tuner monster, including a Dragon Syncro monster, and it must be first Syncro summoned. Once per turn, you can negate the effects of 1 Syncro monster that specifically lists that card in its text in your graveyard. This card can make 1 additional attack during each battle phase, and once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can banish this card until the end phase, and if you do negate the activation, if you do that, banish the card. So it is a level 12, I believe, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So it is a level 11. It's very specific to make. It does look awesome, but outside of that, again, it's not going to be splashed in a load of decks. It is very specific because it does require the Majestic Dragon. Yes, when you combo it off with all of the other cards that you're going to be receiving in this set, it does make it a heck of a lot better and a heck of a lot more consistent to do. However, again, it's mainly going to be used in a Stardust deck. Moving on to the 4th and final card that sits within the Syncro archetype for this set, we do get Stardust Syncron, which is basically like a toon version of Stardust, which I think looks absolutely amazing. So if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you contribute 1 monster to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Syncro monsters. If this card is normal or special, you get to add 1 spell or trap from your deck to your hand that specifically lists Stardust Dragon in its text. So you get to search out Starlight Road. You can even search out, of course, the Arrive in Light, because it does list Stardust Dragon on it, which is a nice bit of magical synergy. Again, the downside of this monster is it does lock you into specifically Synchro summoning, which we've seen in the past isn't a massive issue, but when you're looking at the generic feel for it and how you're going to be able to use and abuse it in all of the other decks around, you are going to be looking more towards a pure Synchro focused deck than, of course, a fun deck that can use and abuse multiple different summoning mechanics. So again, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, so you can use this as one of your last summons, which is a nice little tweak and a nice little change in comparison to the Syncron Search, which gives you a bit of a different edge, so the Syncron Overtake. So again, in my opinion, if I was to rate the Synchro cards themselves, I would probably say Synchro Overdrive and Shooting Majestic are on the same level. I would then probably say that the Stardust Syncron goes into the second position, and then the most important Synchro one for all of those, because it just has a much more generic kind of overreach, will of course be the Arrive in Light. Now let's move on to the last two secret rares. I believe I've pretty much covered all of the other ones. Let me just double check. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it was 7 and 8. Yes, we've got 2 left. So the last 2 cards is Ready Fusion. Now Ready Fusion is basically instant fusion but for vanilla monsters, which means you can play it at free. So pay 1,000 life points to special summon a level 6 or lower non-effect fusion monster from your extra deck. It cannot attack and you destroy it during the end phase. It's treated as a fusion summon and you can only use 1 per turn. Now again, what does this mean? Well, ultimately it means that any deck can now have free extenders for anything they want. The only downside is they do need to take up the space in the extra deck. Now what I mean by this is if your deck plays any level from 1 to 6 and wants to go into rank plays, if your deck plays a Halifibrax or Tuners, you can of course bring out Sea Monster Theseus, because that is a non-effect tuner monster that is of course a fusion. So you are going to be able to use and abuse that as well. Keep in mind, because it is a level 5 tuner, you are also having the ability, if you do get a level 5 yourself, to make Ultimaya Zolkin, so it can be another nice little twist and spin for you. Now, it is not going to be as good as Instant Fusion, because Instant Fusion allowed us the ability to play cards such as Norden. It also allowed us to play Millennium Eyes Restrict, Thousand Eyes Restrict, that gave us additional effects and additional ways to disrupt our opponent or protect our boards. However, this is a card that can be played in pretty much any deck that can help you extend into Isolde, so play a level 4 warrior. It can go into rank 4 archetypes, it can go into rank 2s, rank 3s, 5s, 6, you name it, it is going to help you extend. And just because of its pure genericy and how you can pretty much put it in any single deck that you want that is desperate for an extender, this would be a card that I would say is going to be sought after just for its more balanced usability. Then we move on to the final one, and the final secret, of course, in my opinion, would probably be the best one, because it does relate to the next part of the story of the Dogmatica lore, and that is, of course, the much-hyped Despias. Now, Konami did originally, when they revealed the image for this on the influencers, kind of mess this one up. Because it did originally read, if this card is normal or special, you can add 1 Despia, spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. Now the reason that this is an issue is because there is only 1 Despia spell in the entire game, and that is the Field spell. Whereas in the OCG, the official ruling is it says it could add 1 branded spell, which means it could technically act as an Alistar, searching you out the branded in white, which of course is a fusion spell. That card, of course, is of Alberto, or Alba, the Jester of Despia. The rest of its effect reads as following. If a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, while this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, special summon this card, and if you do, negate that target's effect until the end of the turn. Only use the effect once per turn. Now again, if it is normal or special, you get to add a branded spell or trap. So do not worry, if you are in the European regions and you pull this card and it does say Despia, do not try and get ripped off. Do not have people come up to you and go, oh yeah, it's misprinted, it's Despia, it's really bad, I'll trade it to you for a Snickers, because it's actually already been confirmed that the official name on that card should say add a branded spell or trap, which does mean it is more sought after, it is more generic, and it is highly more playable. Mix that with the rest of the Despia cards that do come in ultras and commons, and the fact that we are going to get more support for them coming up, it is still a very sought after secret. Whether it will be the #1 secret out of the entire set, I do not know. In my opinion, the most generic one will be Ready Fusion, but because of the Despia hype and just the fact that the Despias help out loads of fusion decks, and even stuff like Dark Lords, which trust me, I've seen one of our players at locals with a build together and I was like, whoa, that's kind of interesting, let's see how it works. There is a lot of synergy that can be played around with it as well. We do also receive a level 2 tuner in the form of outfit. It's called Alveon, the Final Nothingness. So obviously that comes off the back of Ready Fusion as well. So they're pretty much the secret rares. Keeping in mind as well that we do have others that are super rares and commons. You've got the new Albaz Fusion Effect Monster. We've also got Suships and Magikeys. Now both of those archetypes I am really hyped and excited for, purely because they are vanilla based. Magikeys revolve around Ritual Summoning and of course Synchro Summoning, and they do get an XYZ in the next set. On the back of that as well, when you do look at stuff like the Suships, they've already got confirmed support coming up in the next set as well. Keep in mind as well, with the Despia field spell, it is technically a Despia and a branded spell, so you get to always search it. What makes the fusion spell so good is during the main phase you can fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If a face-up non-fusion fairy monster or monsters you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you get to target a level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it. You can only use each effect once per turn. Now, at the time of recording this video, we do not know what the Starlights are. My assumption is that we could possibly see Albert, the Jester, as a Starlight, may or may not. I'm pretty sure we are due to get the Dark Charmer in this set as well, so I could understand if that is going to be a Starlight. I wouldn't be surprised if Ready Fusion is a Starlight as well. So there are a lot of things to keep in mind. So now that we've gone through all of the secrets in this set, and just kind of touched on the other archetypes that are within this set, do I feel this set is a one to buy or not to buy? Well, again, when you're looking at pure value, I think it's going to be very, very difficult, especially when you've not got a card on the level like Diviner. I mean, yes, the Albert is kind of the fusion equivalent of Diviner in a sense, but Diviner helps out all ritual decks, whereas Despia will only help out certain fusion decks, and you need more than just him to do it. I don't feel that there is a core card that is going to be driven for. I don't think that Ready Fusion is going to be on the same level as stuff like Triple Tactical Talents, Droplets, and all of those single core cards that are guaranteed to be in everybody's side deck or a main deck of a version of. So again, I feel that Ready Fusion will drop in value. So if you are just to buy a box, then only do it to be supporting your local stores, or if you have a huge interest in one of the particular archetypes. But again, if you're after Suships, if you are after the Magikeys, you can probably pick them up in trades and commons and rares and possible ultras as well. So I can't believe that they are going to be too difficult to get hold of. The only set or the only archetype that you might want to be buying multiple boxes for is the Despias, and like I said, I feel that they will fluctuate in value. I do not feel that they are going to break the roof and being above a £50 card, because I just do not see a particular value card within this set on a whole scale like that. I still think the set is very fun. I like the idea behind it. I would really like to get the Irish Swordsman. I would like to get the Despia so I can mess around with them with Dark Magician. I would also like to get some of the Syncro cards purely because it will help out stuff like TGs, Adamanticators, and just some fun decks overall. But I do not feel that there is any meta-defining deck within here. There is probably a little engine coming off the back of the Despias that may or may not help. And I feel the Irish Swordsman, again, is a kind of a niche card that will be used and abused in certain ways, but I don't feel that it is going to be a meta side deck staple, which again means that unless you are betting or you are certainty to get a Starlight rare, it's going to be very difficult to beat the recommended retail price of around £70 for a box of these, and then try and make your money back. Because I feel even if you were to pull the two best secrets in the form of Alba and in the form of course, the Ready Fusion, I still feel that you either may just break even or you may just make yourself about £10, and that's only if you sell it at pre-release value. So, overall, Dawn of Majesty, to buy and not to buy, as I say in pretty much everything, it is always worth buying at least one box to help support your locals. But it's certain sets that I will say go for cases, go for huge amounts, especially when you look at Ghosts from the past. Unfortunately, Dawn of Majesty is not one of those sets. I do not feel that even if you have a direct interest in any of the particular archetypes within this set, that anything is going to be too hard to get a hold of. I still feel that if you buy one box and you want to build Suships and Magikeys, you could pretty much trade your secrets that you pull within your box to get the missing commons, to get the missing rares, and to get the missing supers. So I do not feel that it's ever going to be that much of a task to achieve. Anyway, thank you so much for all of you that are watching. I hope you've kind of enjoyed this video. I hope these videos help as we break down, obviously, the secrets and the core cards to be watching out for in sets like this. With all of that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, so you do not miss out on any upcoming videos from the channel. Of course, we will be bringing you updated profiles from Dawn of Majesty, as well as introductory profiles for, of course, Despias, Magikis, Suships, you name it, we will bring it. As absolutely always, guys, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling. Looking to pick up your very own custom sleeves? Well, look no further. Go to yourplaymat.com, where you can choose to have your very own image on the back of sleeves, or you can choose from their amazing range of pre-designed artwork ready and waiting for you. Get them shipped directly to your door and use the affiliate link and discount code down below to get 10% off. What are you waiting for? Go and grab your custom sleeves from yourplaymat.com.